do this as a TV show, there's going to be a video, and you guys are going to be actually flying in here somehow. We'll have some cool effects with this.
There you go. I like that idea.
There you go.
Can you fly airplanes, Brad?
Yeah, Josh.
All right, let me introduce you guys. This is the show called Winging It. Brad Borisma and Josh Verdonk are here to answer your questions about what it takes to become a pilot and airplanes and everything, airports, everything associated with what they do. They come each week from Ocala Aviation Flight School, and the phone number to call right now if you want to ask them a question or just kind of chat about planes and flying is 622-9622. That is the WOCA Climate Control Source Hotline. Good morning, guys.
I really think all 6 listeners know who we are by now.
You want me not to introduce you anymore?
Well,
I can stop.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that, the 6 listeners that actually listen to our show probably know that I'm Josh and he's Brad.
Oh, okay.
You think they know that?
I think they know that.
They may not.
I just think it's funny that he announces it the same way every week. And
Okay.
Now there's somebody calling in saying that you're wrong.
that's a fair. I'll take criticism. So we would prefer to not do the intro.
no, you can do an intro. Just liven it up, spice it up a little bit. Do a song.
Give me. Oh, you want a song?
Yeah, sing it. That'd be great.
All right.
See, now you got to realize Josh is now the expert because we just worked on a new commercial, and so he took a lot of tips from Dan. So now he is the master of.
I didn't take the tips. I listened to his tips and then did my own
And
thing.
then you created your own tips.
So I'm taking notes. So next week you want a song to introduce.
That'd be great.
Do you have any idea of a particular song?
Well, why don't you just make lyrics up to our theme song?
You just want you want us to sing your theme song.
Yeah, there you go.
All right.
We need a theme song.
All right.
I don't know if that.
Now,
would
do you
be
want
a
me
good
to bring
idea.
in a female vocalist, or do you want me?
That's
to have,
all up to you.
Or do you
I'm
want
leaving that in your creative
Dan
hands.
and Joe could sing it.
I'm leaving it in your creative hands, really.
And I think he could leave out the last names.
All right.
Because our last names are just a pain in the butt.
Yeah, you can leave those out.
Can I say that?
You can say pain in the butt, pleasure in the butt, whatever's in the butt. If it hurts or is nice, it's up to you.
That just sounded way too wrong.
Well,
I'm moving on.
It's either a pain or a pleasure. I mean, whichever you prefer.
Oh, thank you, Dan.
We're having. All right, let's
Those
go.
are
Thank you, Secretary.
It's not only the funnest show on radio. It's also
exactly right.
It's also girls' eye candy. This is what we hear. You guys
Okay.
are the eye candy for the ladies. That's why the camera goes your way, not my way. All right, let's go to the phone. Brad and Josh are here. Good morning.
Good morning, guys.
Hey,
Good morning.
Hugh. How you doing, Hugh?
Very
Is it a
good.
pain or a pleasure in the butt? What is it?
This is a great program, and it's not a pain in the butt to listen to.
Snot. Did you say snot?
No,
did.
it's snot. Yeah. Okay, you guys, we got to get serious.
That's why they're getting tissues. Let's see.
Serious.
He said get
Okay,
serious.
now, according to the paper this morning, Gainesville is the airport's going to get big renovation, their terminal and this, that, and whatnot. Why is Gainesville Airport, which is much bigger in Ocala, and it's got commercial flights scheduled in and out, not called an international? It's called a regional airport,
It's like this one. Okay.
and we're not.
Okay.
Here we go.
I can explain this away for you.
Okay.
Explain it, Lucy.
International airports have nothing to do with size. An international airport is called international when they have customs. Gainesville has never had customs, thus they are Gainesville Regional Airport.
Oh.
Okay? We were originally an international airport because we had customs that we shared with Leesburg. Now, when things got slow, they actually went to Leesburg and stopped coming to Ocala, but they left the name International. International has nothing to do with size. It is simply if you have customs on the field, so that if somebody flies from an international flight, they can fly direct to that airport and go through customs. That is the only reason.
Well, you would think Gainesville being actually a pretty good-sized airport. I've flown in and out of it already. You think it would be with customs and stuff,
Because it's not necessarily in an area where people are going to be flying from out of the country.
Yeah.
That's the big issue. People, for some reason, back before liked to fly from Ocala and they'd go straight to the Bahamas or that sort of thing.
Yeah.
They just don't do that now. You don't really see much of it most time now. When they go from Bahamas, they go just straight across instead of all the way.
Yeah. You have any idea how many people pass through that terminal every year offhand?
Which terminal?
Gainesville.
Oh, I have no idea. Honestly, I
Yeah.
don't know too much about Gainesville.
And honestly, the Gainesville airport is not that much larger than, I don't know even how much larger it is than the Ocala airport.
Yeah.
I think their longest runway is about the same length as our longest runway.
Yeah.
So they're not actually that much bigger than Ocala.
Yeah.
They just tend to get more. They have the facilities for the the airline industry.
Yeah.
So that's why people think they're a lot of times bigger, and also they just have more need to have that airline industry because they've got the university up there.
Yeah.
So they
Well,
get,
evidently they're going to do a lot of expansion up there, according to the paper. So it's a growing airport, and it's actually convenient for people living in the Ocala area. I mean, a lot of times I got to go down to Tampa or Orlando to fly out, but I've been picking up flights out of Gainesville. Of course, you got to go to Charlotte or Atlanta, but it's 45 miles up the road, and it's easy to get in and out. It's no big deal, And it's, I hopefully it'll get larger and have more business. So it's kind of good for us,
Yep.
Okay, well, thank you guys.
All right. Thank you.
Have a good weekend.
You too.
Bye now.
yeah, not if the budget holds.
I used to fly to Gainesville quite often, actually, when I flew. I don't fly much anymore. But.
Yeah. Well, right now, honestly, with aviation, everything's going to, I know they have these great plans, but first we got to wait until today to see what actually happens with all the cuts they were talking about making in aviation. They may have to put a stop on everything for now. So it's something that's up in the air, and hopefully they get everything figured out. But if anybody's been reading the other papers lately, you know that there's a lot of cuts they're talking about making the FAA.
Do we want to go into this a little bit more?
Well, yeah, so people understand.
Yeah. They're actually talking about cutting 200 or closing down. There's
100.
There's a list of 200 airports with control towers, and they're going to shut down 100 of them if they don't come up with a new budget.
Wow.
All right, and this would include the Ocala Airport, probably the Leesburg Airport, airports like Orlando Executive and Orlando Kissimmee airports are on that.
The Gainesville's on the list.
Gainesville's on the list. Lakeland's on the list. All these towers could all possibly shut down over the next year.
No, the next month.
Oh, in the next month. Well, yeah, but I'm saying.
Yeah.
So, and what that would mean is that there would be a lot more uncontrolled airports. Now, let me explain what that means for, like, the Ocala Airport. Before there was a tower, the pilots relied on each other to make radio calls. And now, unfortunately, there are hotshot pilots out there who don't like making radio calls, or who think they're almost invincible up there, and they cause a lot of problems. We were having 2 on average near mid-air collisions per week out at Ocala when we didn't have the tower, because you had yahoos going the wrong way on the runways and stuff like that, not listening to the radio. So the tower has actually created a great safety margin there that keeps the airplanes, and we haven't had a near mid-air collision since we've had the tower that I know of. At least not like we were having before.
Wow, that's an amazing statistic.
Yeah, the tower adds so much safety and a much safer training environment for our students. And it's looking like, because of these budget issues, that they're going to have to actually close 100 towers on this list of 200. And they're not going to close Gainesville over Ocala because Gainesville has the airline transport in there.
Right.
They're not going to close Orlando Executive over Ocala because Orlando Executive has all these executive jets coming in there.
Right.
So most likely, if these budget cuts go through, like they're talking about, or don't go through, or however it works, the Ocala Airport's going to close here in the next month.
No, the airport won't close.
The airport won't close, but the tower will close. Yeah.
And it's a possibility, and we don't know. I mean, we've been reading a lot of it. They've been talking about it. It was on the radio again this morning. And so it's one of those, it's not a time to freak out yet, but it's one of those that we can't take anything to heart as far as all the growth that could possibly happen until we know what goes on with this.
And with this also comes, the Ocala Tower has a staff of, I think, 7 controllers, all right, including the tower manager, all right? Those 7 controllers are going to be laid off when the tower closes, right? They're not going to be able to go and find a job somewhere else because they're closing all these towers. There's going to be millions of not millions, but there's going to be probably hundreds or even 1,000 or more air traffic controllers looking for jobs, and they're not going to be able to get jobs because no one's hiring. So it's going to create even more loss of jobs and destroy jobs than we already have. Plus, they're also talking about cutting midnight shifts from certain approach control frequencies. Now, what approach control does is it regulates air traffic in the terminal environment. Basically, they sequence them for the landing and then transfer them over to tower to get their landing clearance. Is basically what they do. So what they're going to do is they're going to start cutting midnight shifts from that, and they were recently adding midnight shifts because of this whole falling asleep deal. So they're going to start cutting midnight shifts to save money, which is going to mean that at certain times in the night, there's not going to be the required air traffic control needed for airline travel, and they'll have to start cutting back on flights for airline travel as well. So it's really a thing that's going to radiate, and most of the traveling public's going to notice in one way or another.
Well, I'm glad you talked about it. Yeah.
It's the box too.
Yeah, I saw that.
All right, let's go to the phone. Somebody's waiting. Good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, gentlemen. Thanks for all that great information. Isn't it nice to know that this is going to happen, and yet we're sending additional $30 millions of dollars in aid to the rebels in Syria and $1.3 billion in aid to Egypt, along with 200 Abrams tanks and 20 F-16 jets. But yet we have to cut down air traffic controllers in airports because, gee, the paying public, the taxpayers and everybody use them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not to mention the 80% increase in foreign aid that has taken place over I believe the end of 2010. 2011 went up 80%, and it's going up again. And never mind the fact that all these budget cuts do not impede any of the built-in, 2.8% increase in budgets that they have it figured out for, because that's the true, what they consider true cost of living for themselves. We have to take our country back, gentlemen, and otherwise you're going to have to get a federal voucher just to say you want to travel on a plane somewhere, never mind whether it has a control tower. I'm wondering what your thoughts are on that. I'd love to hear you expound on that. I'll hang up and listen.
Well, definitely getting into some political issues, and obviously Josh voiced a few of his opinions on that.
Just on aviation.
Yeah, on the aviation part, yes. And I did read they were sending $62 million to Syria, and I can't say I agree with the way that they spend it, but it is our government, and we have to just try and appeal to our constituents. I guess constituents. That's
Your
the right word.
elected officials. You are the constituent.
Yes,
Your elected officials.
Thank you. Thank you. There we go. I knew I was off somewhere. But it's one of those, we can't control what they do all the way at the top. We can just try and control and do the best we can here. And that's what we have to do.
And I really appreciate what you just did as far as explaining that your specific area of this whole big picture.
Yeah.
Because that probably represents a lot of areas. There's probably a lot of areas that are going to be cut.
It does.
That will affect a lot of people just as this one will.
Well, exactly. And what people don't realize is, there's a lot of people that do general aviation. A lot. And, most people think about the airlines. Airlines is not general aviation. General aviation, though, if you go out to the airport, every airplane at the airport is general aviation.
Everything that's not military or
yeah,
airline.
all of the jets, all of the twins, all of the flight planes, or the flight training school planes, and it will have effect on all of those. And so it's going to work its way up and have effect on everybody.
All right, good morning. You're on the air with Josh and Brad.
Good morning, Sonny again. A while ago, I heard something to the effect that there were a couple of gentlemen that have the small passenger jets in Ocala here, and they were talking about they do most of their flying as charter flying, and they were talking about something where you can get several charters together to split the cost of a flight, and even if that meant one was going to say Charleston, South Carolina, Charleston, North Carolina, and Raleigh, North Carolina. They would make that, split the cost, and the pilots would drop off one, then the other, and then whatever, pick them up to come back to Florida. And I was, it sounded like a great deal the way it was explained to me, but I don't think it ever got off the ground. And I'm just wondering if you guys heard anything about that, and I more or less can rest assured that that'll be affected for sure.
Well, technically, there's actually no charter in Ocala. They have people that own planes that get flights out of there, that sort of thing. There's no actual charter. I think if you do a charter, though, you would hope to be able to make it where you could, and there's no reason that you couldn't have people share a plane and go to different locations. It would just have to be where somebody had to be in the exact same spot at the same time. Where with the charter, most times somebody takes it because they need to be somewhere at a specific time. And so they can get a plane and go exactly where they need to go. And it's very rare where you have two people that are going similar places, not necessarily the same, but maybe even the same state. They need to be there at the exact same times. And so it would make it harder, possible, but harder.
Oh, I understand that, but it was mentioned, I believe, on WOCA, and they were hoping for the best kind of deal. Of course, it's not going to work out for the majority of people, but if you like you said, even if you have two people going to the same location, if they can adjust their times a little bit, share the cost. Half the price of the charter is better than the whole price, is the way I look at it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But that was I heard that a while back, and then it more or less went the way of the dodo bird, I guess.
Yeah, well, doing a charter is not the easiest thing, especially, you have to have the traffic and the necessity for it. And a lot of people, like you said, because Gainesville and Orlando and Jacksonville and Tampa are so close, they're not willing to pay that cost for that charter. A lot of people think it's a smaller plane, it should be cheaper than a commercial flight. It just doesn't work that way.
No.
You've got personalized service that takes you at exact spot at the exact time. It just costs a lot more money, and that's why the charter just doesn't really seem to take off as people think it should. Huh, literally.
Oh, I understand
it's
that.
funny, yeah.
Well, thank you very much for your programming. Have a nice weekend, and thanks for that information. It's nice to know we have government at work.
Absolutely.
You mentioned earlier we were making a commercial. What
Yes.
are we making a commercial about? I mean, we have a pretty cool show commercial.
And we already know that everybody knows our show.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
actually, we were talking about the scholarship
All right.
again because
tell
I
me
was,
about the scholarship.
Well, let me inform you why we were making a commercial.
Okay.
Because I was told that my commercial made it sound like we weren't really serious and that we really didn't have $4,000.
We never kid around. We're always serious.
Yes, exactly. And in reality, yes, the scholarship is still in force. It is for Marion County youth, ages 17. We say to 25, but it's really 24, and then 24 and 11 months and 30 days. I mean, it's not 25 counted. 24 counts all the way up.
Up to, but not including 25.
Exactly. So it's
That's a lot of wording, though.
That's a lot of wording. But it is serious, and it's for people that want to learn to fly, get their private license, or if they want to go to the commercial, they can start with the private, get that money, and it doesn't have to be for you. It can be for yourself, your children, your grandchild, whoever you've got that may want to get into flying. It's a huge opportunity, and I try and explain to people, do this. I mean, I've got people calling me. I had a lady call me yesterday, but her daughter's only 14. I'm like, then she can't do it. She's got to be 17 because she has to be able to get her license.
See, if I had this deal when I was getting my private license, I would be all over it, like a gator on a loose ball.
Yeah, yeah.
A gator on a loose ball?
Yeah.
Did you just make that up?
No, think about it. A gator on a loose ball.
Okay, now I get it.
There you go.
Okay.
You guys ready for another call?
Oh, sure.
Good morning. You're on the air.
Yeah, good morning. We're going to need those airplanes, those air traffic controllers. I got news for you guys, because we're going to call out the citizen militia, and we're going to arrest these snakes that lie still and kill that send our job to China and Mexico. And we're going to put them in them planes, and we're going to fly them over there where the Chinese, and see how they like living over there with a bunch of commies. Because this country is going to be taken back by God's people. Thank you, Larry.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Wow.
Our planes will not fly to China, though. They will never make it. Our little planes. The corporate jets might, but ours would never go that far.
Even most corporate jets won't.
Yeah, you'd have to kind of like go all the way around the opposite way. Yeah, they won't go that far.
I have a question about the air traffic controllers and their education. Are they also pilots, or is it helpful if they are?
It's probably helpful, but it's not a job requirement that I know of. Pretty much all that I've talked to have at least done some kind of training. I knew a gentleman, he did training with us. He got his actually he went all the way through his commercial just so that he felt it would help his. And he did get a job, and it did help. Not it didn't help him get the job, but he felt it helped him with communicating with people.
Yeah, sometimes there's a little bit of a gap between the pilot and the controller, especially when it's a newer controller, because they don't really understand what the pilot's all doing right then. You know, I've had the air traffic controller say to me, you know, when you're in the traffic pattern, why do you turn down the radio so you don't hear our calls? And I say, well, we don't turn down the radio. He's like, well, why don't you hear our calls then? I'm like, well, because we're teaching. You know, I might be instructing the student might be talking. You know,
Right.
I might be walking the student through how to make the things. And sometimes, you know, as you're in the middle of a sentence and you miss a call and stuff like that. And if the instructor or if the controller has a pilot's license, he understands a little bit more the workload of the pilot, especially around the airport, which can help him understand a little bit why we might not get back to him right away, or why we occasionally miss a call or something like that.
Or if you call the wrong tail number.
Or if you call the wrong, yeah, because, well, what happens a lot of times here at the flight school especially is,
Especially.
what did I say?
Especially. There's
Whatever.
no X.
I'm a foreigner.
That's
I
true.
can say whatever the hell
Okay,
I want to.
good point. Okay, go foreigner.
All right.
Especially.
Especially since I'm a foreigner, sometimes when we're flying in the traffic area and with our airplanes, one instructor will be in one airplane, and I'll be in another airplane, and we switch airplanes so often. You know, I might be in 3 or 4 different airplanes in a day, that you make the wrong call. So they might make I'm having a hard time.
Yeah.
They might make a call to the other airplane, and I respond for that airplane because I forget, you know, at that second, you know, what my tail number on the airplane is, which is kind of funny at times because.
Well, and I'm guessing you're an exception because you are in so many different planes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't happen most of the time.
Most people fly one airplane or 1 or 2 airplanes.
I would think, yeah.
But I'll jump in our, 5172 Whiskey, which is one of our airplanes, into 596 Foxtrot Alpha, and make
forget.
a call or something.
I mean,
like
they catch it. It's not like when they just keep going. But
Yeah.
Yesterday we heard where we had a student up and then a pilot up, and the pilot starts off with 596 72 Whiskey.
Yeah, I'm not in that airplane. Yeah.
And it just happens, but it's kind of fun to hear because, they do fly a lot.
Yeah.
And the tower understands, and then we correct it, but it's just kind of funny sometimes because then when they come down, we can make fun of them. Makes it a little.
Well, and the tower understanding is, I guess, maybe where my question started. I was just wondering how much they were in touch with your education, so they would know.
Some are very much in touch where they've gone through it, and some aren't so much. And you can actually
in touch.
And so much in touch.
Uh huh.
You felt good saying that?
I did.
Yeah, it really depends. A lot of controllers, especially if they really like doing their jobs, they'll go out and get a license if they can afford it.
Is the training
just to learn about it?
Is the training for a tower like the one in Ocala the same as the controller would have for a tower like in JFK?
Yes, they have to
Oh, it
have.
is? Oh, really?
Yes.
Lots of times when they come out of air traffic control school, which is what they basically do, is they sit in a room that has I think projectors or screens and stuff like that, where it's like a simulator basically, and they simulate being in a tower, and you got an instructor there, and they do all this kind of stuff, and they give them different emergencies or stuff to work with.
Yeah, different traffic, and it's just like with the airlines where you don't get your commercial license and jump into a big plane.
Yeah.
You start slow and you work your way up, and that's the same thing with a tower. They're not going to hire a newbie and put him in JFK. You're going to start off small and work your way up. And you do have some people that were in big airports and now they're scaled down. They want the slower airports again.
Yeah.
Everybody desires to go faster and everything they do, and then all of a sudden it's as they get older and they do it a lot, then they want to slow down again.
They realize that, the slower airports are a little bit, more laid back.
Less stressful, right?
Yeah.
I'm guessing.
I know one guy, I don't know him personally, but he told me he started at some little podunk airport, and then he went to JFK, and it took him 8 years from the time he started at JFK till he was completely on his own. 8 years to get him all completely oriented to where he was able to operate without a supervisor, kind of a thing.
Wow.
Because of just the amount of complexity of the traffic. And he did that for probably 3 or 4 years, and then he went back to a small airport. So 8 years of training for, not training, on-the-job training for 4 years of being on your own, and then realizing it's much nicer at the slower airports.
I'm guessing you both don't remember the Reagan years when he You said go ahead and let the air traffic controllers go, whether it was a strike or something.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Remember it? I know you don't remember, but
Don't
you
remember
I do.
part
about
about
it.
it, but
I
I
do.
know
Okay.
about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that must have been terrible. I mean, I don't remember anybody flying that had an issue, but it must have. I mean, what did they do?
They just didn't have as much resources in the cockpit anymore. I remember someone telling me a story about flying during that time, and they couldn't get a hold of controllers for hours sometimes.
Wow.
So
Yep.
Oh my goodness! Look at the clock. It went fast.
It did.
I guess we got to go.
We got to go.
Now, do you want to sing the intro? Well, it's actually an outro now. It's the same music.
I'll let you do it.
No, I don't think I will. But it's actually an outro.
So long. Farewell. Wiedersehen. No.
Goodbye.
Here, try,
that was it,
Give it a
yes.
shot. Give it a shot. Can you? Oh, you
No, that
can't
was
hear
it. That
you
was the
can't
best
hear
thing
it,
to
huh? Okay. You can't hear the music.
No.
But see, it says intro. We need to get you outro music.
An outro. Is that actually what it's called?
Look
don't
at
think
this.
so.
See it on the screen? See it on the screen? It says intro music.
Well, I see the intro. I don't see an outro.
I don't hear it.
Okay, thanks.
Oh, there's the
Thanks,
outro.
Dan.
There's the
Dan just
outro.
typed outro for me.
Not on file. Get out. Not on file.
All right. Bye.
Well, what's the phone number at Ocala Aviation? We better make
Say
sure we give
bye,
that.
gee.
The phone number is 352-861-7484.
Hey, stop playing with the computer. Hold on a second.
I noticed. Okay.
All right, you guys have a good weekend. We'll see you next week.
Sounds good. You too.
All right, we'll be right back.
Ocala's information station, 1370 WOCA.
Hi, this is Brad, one of the hosts of Winging It here on WOCA every Friday at 9 a.m. I want to take a moment to talk about a serious issue regarding aviation. In the next 5 years, the aviation industry is projected to have a shortage of commercial pilots, in part due to the lack of new pilots starting their flight training now. A pilot needs 2 to 3 years to get through their training and to build up a